Are you a deviant? You know, like those of us who binge watch serial killer programmes, laugh at the stupid shit people do, and revel in anything adult? Well, you found your people. Join us as we crack open the door to the padded cell and release the insanely stupid, the weirdly wonderful, and those who choose to live outside societal norms. We'll delve into the strange, the macabre, the sexy, and the outrageous. So if you're a deviant, then you have your place with us in the padded cell. Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Padded Cell Podcast. I'm Vicky.
23. I'm Nancy.
Way! So you're getting it now. You're getting it
23 episodes in, I've learnt my name.
And I'm fresh off my cruise.
Show off.
I know. So if you're over on Facebook, and if you're not, you should be over on Facebook because there's over 50,000 deviants over there now, all having a lovely time, jangling away to each other, making friends. I put some live videos on the Facebook page of the cruise. I think I put about 4 on. I felt like Jane McDonald.
Were you singing on them?
I wasn't singing. I did actually serenade Vanilla down the phone though, you know.
I think I was there. Or I think I got there just after.
I was singing The Love Boat to him. The Love Boat. I'm not going to sing it now.
You just did.
I just forgot that I was recording for a second then. Okay, I'm live. Anyway, so I had a lovely time on the cruise and we went on the biggest cruise ship in the world, the Icon of the Seas, on its maiden voyage, and it was just outstanding. I haven't put many pictures out there yet because our friend Mikey is doing a little video.
Oh,
of little
montage.
A montage of all me photos, me videos, and Jim's thrown some in there as well, which is a little bit embarrassing. But it was really, really good. So it was just a massive ship though, and we went for a week, and even 3 weeks in, you would not have seen all the ship and like properly experienced it. Yeah. You can walk around it, but you'll actually go and experience everything. It'd take you weeks. Absolutely huge, and you hardly saw the same person twice.
We were watching the TikToks. It's all over TikTok, wasn't it?
Well, as the ship was leaving Miami Port, there was boats and there was people all over the place, all around it, taking footage, and it's going to be all over the internet. That, but as we were leaving, they were setting fireworks off because it is like the inaugural voyage of the biggest cruise ship in the world. It's a big thing. And it was amazing to actually be on the ship, waving at everybody, and all that was really, really good.
Isn't it like 5 times the size of Titanic?
Something like that. Yeah, just a big motherfucker.
Yeah.
You do look at it and go, how's that going to stay afloat? And it does. Do you know, and I was saying to somebody recently in our group, they don't move. They just cut through the water. They're that big. They don't move. And one particular day, we had some stormy weather and I felt it move. So even the biggest cruise ship in the world can be moved by a storm. Not much though. Not like seasick movement. So yeah, we went to St. Thomas, we went to St. Kitts, we went to an island in the Bahamas.
You survived the Bermuda Triangle.
We actually flew over the Bermuda Triangle and sailed through it as well. And I'm still here. So yeah, you're welcome. I'm still here. But we went to this place, St. Thomas. I have actually been to St. Thomas before, but I didn't get to explore the island too much. And we went to a pirate museum.
Is that a little clue for today?
No. No. However, it did inspire me to maybe do an episode on female pirates further on down the line because there's a couple who were like proper kick-ass.
Yeah, I've seen some of the comments online.
Yeah, brilliant. So now went to St. Thomas, went to this pirate museum and had a lovely time. We had half an hour. I'm like, it's not enough for a pirate museum. They had like exhibits that you could actually interact with, and I wanted to interact with everything, you know, and I'm like, pick everything up. They had like this grabber machine where you could grab like coins, gold coins, real ones, Nance, real ones. And they had this bit where you could stand at like the helm. There's a picture, I think, Dylan. Yes. There's a picture of me in pirate garb. Yeah, there you go. Pointing somewhere. So I was just standing there, just looking nice, and then the lady directing was like, "Point!" I was like, "Where?" And she went, "Anywhere."
To the horizon.
So that's me dressed as a pirate. I had a lovely time. Really, really good. And the other good thing that I need to report, because of all the travelling that I did, as you know, I had a long journey back, had a little bit of constipation. Mm-hmm.
Good job, you know how to deal with that.
I did toilet yoga. Wow, do that little titter in the background then. You've just been doing toilet yoga, haven't you, mate?
I have.
Yeah, just before this episode started today, we went live and I followed Ryan to the toilet.
Oh, I did not need yoga for that.
You didn't need yoga? No.
I've been doing yoga with hands, haven't I?
You have been doing, yeah. Another thing,
yeah.
if you have me on the Facebook page, is a cracking picture
With
of
my nips out.
with your nips out, with Nance and Rye doing the double dog on the toilet.
I mean, I purposely put a t-shirt on for the photo.
I sent that picture as well.
No. And then said, that looks shit, take it off.
Yeah, well, I much preferred the underwear photo personally.
Yeah.
And your nipples, I think they were Instagram friendly.
Yeah, it wasn't too revealing.
I mean, if you really zoomed in, I had to zoom in to make sure,
just for science,
just to make sure that the nipples weren't too much on show.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had to study it quite a while, and then I decided that they were Instagram friendly.
They were
so
safe.
They stayed, them babies stayed
just
on
not
Instagram.
Facebook safe.
Well, Facebook's a little bit more
are really
sensitive,
prudish, aren't they?
and because I've got 50,000 odd followers, one of them might just go nipple.
I could have
report.
just breastfed you, Ryan.
Fucking hell.
I am open to offers. Not on the toilet.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe that's too
You could
far.
have breastfed him. Nance.
That's safe for Facebook, isn't it?
It is. Do you know what? That's a fetish we're going to talk about on another day. There is a fetish for lactation.
Coming to a Facebook near you.
One of our friends used to be into that.
I know.
He used to make people lactate into shot glasses and drink them.
Yep.
I'm always saying, do you know what? Everyone's just dead nice and dead normal.
I don't think
in
that's
our club
past
and
though.
they
I
say
think,
shit like that.
I think he's still into that.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay, so if a lady came in who was lactating, he'd be like, get him out and
think so,
fill
yeah.
them glasses up.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, back to toilet yoga. It works. And my favourite position is the half bloat. Do you remember what the half bloat was?
That's how I naturally sit. You know when I sit at work.
Yeah.
I've noticed that you put one leg up, don't you? Or do you put both up?
Depends. If I'm standing at the desk, I put one leg up.
Yeah.
But if I'm sitting, I'd sit with my knees up.
So full bloat.
Yeah.
So you obviously don't have any problems going to the toilet then, because that's
No.
really effective. Well, anyway.
Maybe that's why I'm regular, because I
After
sit
my
like that
journey,
regular.
I was very constipated and I was like, oh. Anyway, I went, toilet yoga. So I didn't do the good morning sunshine, and I certainly didn't do brace because I'd just come off the plane. But I had a little go at I think sit and pretty. Didn't really do
the
much.
sideways one.
Yeah, and then I did the half bloat with my left leg out up. It worked. So there you go. Toilet yoga for dummies. It absolutely works.
Ryan's just sitting on the couch going to shit.
With his leg up. Okay. So, have you been busy while I've been away?
Someone's got to keep the
ship sailing.
yeah, keep the cogs turning in that townhouse machine.
Yeah, well,
So yeah, I've just been working
working. Yeah, well, I've been gallivanting.
in the snow. Snowing today.
Fucking dramatic. I've been working in the snow, like it in the Arctic. it hasn't even, it's not even sticking. Yeah, it's like not even snow.
Good.
I started an
I
hour
can
ago.
stay that way.
Drama queen. Holding the fort in the snow. Polar ice cap. Anyway, right. So we've got some mentions. We've got some new Patreons. Our Patreon, there's loads of people joining in now, said good, and they're all starting to talk to each other and stuff. We've got a few things over on Patreon, and if you want to know what's coming for our Patreons, you can actually just go over and sign up for a free account, and you can see sort of what we've got planned and stuff for Patreon. But if you want to see other stuff, you've got to pay.
And early access, Vicky, to all the episodes.
Thank you. Would you like to come over here, Dylan?
I would love to.
One day you need to.
Yeah.
I think you could just do your job from
You
the middle.
actually do Dylan wants to come on our podcast. You have Dylan on Monday. Then I've got to have Calvin producing then.
Yeah. Let the comments decide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take them to the club and then they can...
Right. So,
We still need to do that.
so do y'all want Dylan to join us on the podcast one day? Give us a little vote. Let me know. I think it's going to be a resounding yes. You've got fans, Dylan.
Oh, really?
Hang on. Let me just
Dylan
read you
can come on
something.
and do a little beg.
So something was sent to me yesterday, actually, by somebody called Dylan.
Oh.
Wasn't you?
Brothers and Dylans.
And he's been chatting to me a little bit. And he was getting a tattoo done recently. And he's basically said, I followed you on Patreon and binge watched all day while I was getting a tattoo. Need a, for fuck's sake, Dylan, voice note or something so I can make a ringtone. You, Nance and Ryan should start a Padded Cell Cameo account, which we are actually thinking of doing, aren't we? Anyway.
Are you a deviant?
Oh my God, yeah. Anyway, so I sent him a voice note over. I went, oh, for fuck's sake, Dylan. And he's delighted and he's made a ringtone out of it.
Oh, that's class.
I know. It's like Dylan's all over the world now going to ask me to voice note him. Oh, brilliant. So, yeah, we've Patreon's going really, really well. So thanks to those who've joined us. And as Dylan quite rightly says, you get early access to our episodes. So normally they go out on a Thursday, but on Patreon they go out on the Monday, so 3 days before. And there's an audio and a visual version on there. We'll be doing some other stuff as well. Like I say, if you go over, you can have a little look at what the plans are for Patreon. You can have a look over there as well. So, some other little mentions and comments. Now, before I go on to my mentions, one of our friends over on fetlife.com was chatting to another one of our friends, and he said this person got him into the padded cell. And he's forever grateful. And he said, the medical term for the gooch is the perineum. He's only just catching up. It's also known as the taint, or pleasingly, the grundle. Don't know why. However, on a penis-owning individual, I have always referred to it as the barse because it's a bit between your balls and your arse. I do hope this information finds you well. So the barse.
Someone else calls it the boss.
Do they?
It might have been vanilla.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, yeah, he thinks it's original.
Yeah.
So, now, do you remember I told you about Peter from Australia, who's originally from Liverpool, he's a funny guy?
Yeah.
Right, so he messaged me recently and he said, also, I am legit ordained minister. He's got one of them ones offline, I think. So, if you've got sins that need absolving, I can make those cunts fuck right off.
How long has he got?
So, Peter, I'm going to be in touch because I've got an awful lot of sinning to be forgiven. So we'll have a little chat about that.
Just getting Sid and Nancy's confessional booth.
Yeah. And then lastly, we've got Tash. And she said that she was casually listening to Channel 5 recently, Jeremy Vine.
Ugh.
For those who are in the UK, you know who Jeremy Vine is. I like Jeremy Vine.
Oh, no.
He's all right. Anyway, he was talking about maggot cheese. And she was like, I know the answer to this. I know the answer to this. So we're educating people. We're educating people all over the place, Miss Boss. Just a few little names that I just want to shout out of some regulars that are always commenting. Serafina, great name, that, innit? Mm-hmm. She said she's got loads of ideas as well for things that we can do. Craig Kinloch, he's always commenting. And Helen Wills Hyam, I think. And she's left a lovely review. That was like dead.
That was like a newsreader.
It was, wasn't it?
I know, the news at 10.
So she said, I honestly love watching Nancy and Vicky. I'm sure she loves you as well, right? They cheer me up no end. The podcasts are funny, thought-provoking. The story's fascinating, absorbing and tantalising. You both have put a fire in my belly. You really have. I found my people. Love from this deviant.
I found my people.
Found my people. That's really nice. So, yeah, if you want to leave us a review, feel free. That was on Facebook. We've got 4 reviews on Facebook. I think we could do a few more than that. Nice ones. Don't be putting shit ones on there.
Or cunty ones, and then it can be a middle bit.
I don't mind a cunty one as long as it's not like a shit cunty one. Have you noticed now that I just say the C word? I'm not going to say the C word anymore. I do just try and filter it a little bit though. I just don't say it as much as I do in real life. I had a conversation.
People want to know the real us, and we drop the C-bomb a lot.
We do. I had a conversation with an American guy on the ship, and he said like the C word is like right, so offensive in his part of America. And I went, really, cunters? And he was like, yes, it's very offensive. I must have just dropped it in conversation, didn't realise it, and he just had to tell me how offensive it was. So, yeah, give us some reviews and some likes, loves, downloads is the one, because we get up the ranks if we get more downloads and subscribes on YouTube and stuff. And I should have done it at the end, really. I'm going to do my segment now. You curious?
We're going to get the fart button in a minute.
I know. Right then. So, Tisha in the background's putting me right off. I want to come over and have a laugh with you. Whatever you're laughing at. I know. Wouldn't get anywhere.
Imagine.
So,
it'd just be us.
In November, end of November, me and my friend went to Krakow. Remember me telling you about it?
Yep.
One of me jaunts, because I don't go anywhere. And I put it out there that I was going to Krakow, and one of our listeners, Shell, said there's this great museum in Krakow that you need to go to, and it's called the Museum of the Hangman. Mm-hmm. So it resonated straight away. Went online, had a little look at it, and even though it's called the Museum of the Hangman, it's actually got loads of torture implements in there. It's not just like execution stuff. So I was like, right, if I don't do anything else in Krakow, I've got to go to this museum. You know, I'm like a museum nonce, can't help it. And especially if there's like death and torture involved, you know, put my name all over it, really. I couldn't miss it. Well, I nearly did fucking miss it because I couldn't find it. It says on the website, it's in the central square underneath this big like town hall type building. They all look like town hall buildings on the central square. So anyway, we were looking around everywhere, and I think we've got a picture of, so this little friggin' alley. There's loads of these alleys. I think I went down every alley on this square looking for it until my friend
did you not see the stocks?
Until my friend said, well, wouldn't it be that one with the stocks outside? And I went, quite possibly, yes, it is that one. So anyway, we went down this little narrow alleyway, and there it was. And you go down these big stone steps. There's a big dungeon door with like the great thing outside. You have to knock on it. So yeah, it's like authentic straight away. Big, old, heavy door being opened. So immediately I was like absorbed into the whole fantasy of, torture and stuff.
But it didn't smell like our dungeon.
It didn't quite smell like our dungeon, no. Anyway, just a very quick what the website says. I'm not going to say it all. But what it says is that there's it's been open since 2013, and the guy who opened it has been collecting stuff since he was a young man. And I'd say he's in his mid to late 50s now. His name is Marius. And there's over 100 items in this thing. Now, when you walk in, it looks like there's thousands, not hundreds. And what he's done, he's sort of like, what would you call it? Buried out now. Empties out this cellar of the bottom of the building. Burrowed out, that's the word I'm looking for. And created this like real authentic looking dungeon. It's really, really good. There's all like sandstone everywhere. There's like wooden joists, but have been made to look like the part of like a torture. Oh, fucking brilliant. And like moonlighting everywhere. It's absolutely brilliant. So he says that the tools can be divided into groups depending on the function. Some are used to ridicule and bring discredit on the honour of the convicted person as a result of trivial crimes such as indecency. God, we'd be getting punished every day.
Punish me, please.
Anytime. Others supported the process of acquiring knowledge. And then obviously others were to bring justice on the convicted person. So yeah, he's basically saying that it's 6 meters deep beneath this 15th century building. And he's really, really created this amazing space. So just you just feel like you're in the moment straight away. It's £5.90-ish to get in. So it's not even going to break the bank. It's even more
like
to
a
get
coffee.
you can get like a booklet worth more. I think it's about £8 just for the book. But the guy who owned it, the curator, he's there as you walk in. And he likes to take you around himself. Now, at first, we said, I'm going to take you around. I was like, oh, great, who's going to man the desk? Well, it's tiny. So literally, if somebody walked in, he'd just run up the stairs and bring them in. But we still had that personal touch. It was lovely. I have actually emailed Marius to let him know that we're doing this, but he hasn't come back to me, so never mind. Well, he was lovely on the day, so I thought he might be interested. I did tell him I was a dominatrix. Hey-ho. Quick slave me tea.
I can see a sneak peek of it on Dylan's screen.
Can you? So if we have a look at the next picture and you can sort of get a feel. So in the picture there, you can see a rack, a stretching rack. We've got one of them, haven't we? Mm-hmm. It doesn't look quite as macabre as that, but it does the same thing. Obviously, we don't kill people on it. And then the other thing is actually called the Spanish donkey. And we're going to talk about the Spanish donkey later on. It doesn't look as packed there as it was on the day. There's just literally every bit of wall is just full of stuff. Thanks, Dylan.
It reminds me of the little house off Hocus Pocus.
Yes, very much like that, actually. So anyway, there's all sorts of things in there. And the guy at first, I think he was just like walking around with us just to make sure we weren't going to rob anything, like two Brits. Until he heard me saying, oh, that's a rack. That's a yoke. That's an Iron Maiden. And he obviously thought, she knows what she's talking about. And I was whishing on. And then he came over and he said, so you're knowledgeable about some of this stuff? Well, actually, yes, I've got my own dungeon in the UK. Tells him all about it. I'm a dominatrix. He didn't even flinch. I must not be the first dominatrix to walk in there. Well, maybe every dominatrix that visits Krakow is just like me and has got to go to the torture museum. And he's like, yeah, another dominatrix. All right, yeah. But then, obviously, once I'd piqued his interest because I actually knew what I was talking about, he gave me loads of his time. And telling me all sorts about where he'd got the stuff from. He'd been, like I say, he'd been collecting from a young boy, and he'd got this stuff from all over Europe. Some of it had been gifted to him, and some of it had he'd bought, something he'd found. But in most cases, he knew exactly where it came from originally, what its intended use was, and then the outcome from that use. And he took great delight in giving me a lot of detail. He's just as twisted as us. So I think we've got another picture, because number 3. So photographs are not allowed. However, he did let me just take a couple. And this is a torture chair. So if you look really closely, obviously there's spikes all over it. But the person would sit with their arms on the armrests and then their feet in front of the chair. And then there's a plank of wood which would fit over their legs, and that would be tightened. So the legs would then obviously be impaled on those nails. Similarly, they'd have straps over their arms, which would push their arms down, and they'd have one across their chest as well. Now, you can't see this very well unless you really zoomed in. At the back of the chair, it's like a well, and it's a well for bodily fluids, so obviously blood and stuff. Because even though it doesn't look that bad, if you think about where those nails are going to be sticking in the legs, there's a good possibility they're going to be sticking in the femoral artery, which would just kill them off. They'd bleed out. And obviously on their arms as well, you've got arteries there as well. And even if you didn't die from the impalement itself, it's not cleaned. And a lot of the time, a lot of these things back then weren't, so they'd get infection and die within a few days anyway. So I really liked this because we haven't got one. I have actually seen one before, and when he was describing it, at first I was like, that looks a little bit lame compared to everything else. And when he described it to me, he said it's actually very torturous because it's slow. The nails are not long enough to go right in the body, just enough to puncture where it needs to kill somebody off slowly. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice start, Marius, thank you very much. So as we were walking around on the walls, there's all sorts of things. So there's like clamps, there was pokers, there was loads of head cages, there was shackles, there was pliers, there was stretching devices, there was loads of torture implements. And there was this cabinet about the size of this desk. And it must have had 30 or 40 old knives in there. Some of them looked like they'd been in the ground for years. He hadn't restored them, he'd just displayed them as he'd found them. But some of them had like hooks, some of them had teeth, and obviously they were torture implements. And he said every single one of those knives has been used in some kind of torture somewhere around Europe. It all came from Europe, not from anywhere else. So that in itself, just all them knives. But then apart from all the smaller things, those are bigger pieces of furniture as well, which I'm going to go into more, because some of them I'd heard of. Some of them I'd heard of, thought I knew all about them and didn't. And some of them I hadn't really heard of at all. And I thought it was really interesting what he was telling me. So I'm going to try and tell you what he told me in the way he did, because it was really, really interesting. And you know, when somebody's telling you something they're dead passionate, I'm like, you are so passionate about torture and death. I love you. I found my person. He was just, not in like a sadistic way. He knew so much about it. And I think he was just delighted that he had a captive audience.
Probably makes a change from people coming in and just going, look at that.
Look at that. Oh, what's that for me? So fucking hell. Whereas I was like, oh, tell me more. I was getting inspiration, to be honest with you. So obviously these large pieces of furniture, they resulted in all manners of torture and death. And I showed you a picture before of the Spanish horse. I think it was slide 2, or I don't know what it was now. I'm just going to tell you something very quickly about that. So I think you've got picture 5 there, Dylan. I'm just doing it slightly out of order. Okay, so you can sort of see there how it could be painful. This was created by those amongst the Spanish Inquisition, and they were absolute CUNTs, because nearly enough everything has been invented by them. And I did like the late Middle Ages time, and it was, as you can see, it's like a horse-ish shape with that sort of pyramid pointing upwards. And the victim would normally be naked, actually. They wouldn't normally be clothed. But I think this person, in this, if I remember rightly, was actually a soldier. And it was his officers who put him on this. And it was more of a punishment rather than a death sentence. So they kept him clothed. But he's got weights hanging from his legs there. So normally what would happen is they'd be naked and they would be either hands tied behind their back, or they'd be shackled above their head and then lowered. onto it. And then once they'd got themselves comfy, they would then shackle some weights to the legs, and they just keep adding weights to it. And eventually it would just like slip them right at the middle. So it could be used as torture and punishment, but mainly it was used for death. And he did actually have an original Spanish donkey there, and it had been used. And I was like, wow, okay. I mean, he couldn't tell me exactly who had been on it, didn't give me that much detail, but it was still fascinating that it had been used. Now, similar to this, picture 4, please, Dylan, is the Cradle of Judas, or the Judas Cradle.
Oh.
Okay, so similar in that, you're going to be balanced on this thing into like a pyramid, but as you can see, it's on 3 legs. And the person, even though on this one, they're attached to the walls, normally they'd be shackled above their head, lowered down, and the point would be aimed towards their bum hole or the vagina.
Nice.
And normally, once the ropes are loosened and they're right on that point, it'd be enough. They wouldn't need any more than that. It'd just go right up there. But in some cases, it didn't. And again, they would put weights on their feet, and it would just, go right up there and kill them off. Now, the person that invented this, a Spanish guy, he said that he considered this to be humane.
How?
Because at the time, a lot of the torture devices were made to like crush bones, or like, melt people and stuff like that. And he said that this was humane because it would be quick. There's nothing humane about that.
Doing that.
Yeah, definitely. So when he very first designed it, he said that it was just supposed to be a torture device, so people would not be like let go from the rope. They'd be dangled, and the point would just be there as a threat.
Just poking their bum hole.
Yeah, as a threat, almost, really.
They might like it.
But those at the
Just the
Spanish
tip.
Inquisition had other ideas, and the executioners decided they didn't like his lame form of torture. And they decided to hang weights from people. Now, in some cases, if they didn't die straight away, it could take literally an hour or so, if that, for them to die. But if they didn't, they'd still die of infection because they just never cleaned these things. Why would they? They're torture devices. So you can imagine the feces and...
Anal leakage.
That has been built up. So yeah, they just... they died of infection. We've been horrible to each other, haven't we, over the years, honestly. Now, the big surprise for me here, the cage that we've got in the cellar?
Yep.
What's it called?
The
one that looks like a person.
The gibbet.
Gibbet. Okay. So he had a gibbet. I'm going to call it a gibbet. So if we can have picture 6 up, please. Thank you, Dylan. So this was his gibbet. He allowed me to take 2 photographs. So one was of the torture chair that I showed you before, and this is a gibbet. Now, I was like, oh, it's a gibbet. And he said, no, it's a body cage. And I said, oh, we call it a gibbet. He went, no. He said the gibbet is actually the wooden structure frame that the cage hangs from. And we've actually got that on picture 7. So I was like, I've been calling it a gibbet all these years. And he went, no, that's a gibbet. The actual frame is the gibbet. So I've been telling all these people on my tours for 12 years that we've got a gibbet downstairs, and we haven't. We've got a cage that hangs from a gibbet.
Well, not one person's corrected us in all these years.
Not one, no. So if we can just go back to picture 6 again. So this is his gibbet, and as you can see, it's person-shaped. Now, back in the day when these were used, there was no sort of blueprint on how you make these.
It looks
things.
a lot more roomy than ours.
It does. It looks like the Marshmallow Man out of Ghostbusters. Do you not think so? Is that just me?
TikTok off the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, TikTok of the Wizard of Oz.
Michelin Man.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I prefer Marshmallow Man, but there you go. So, but at the time, blacksmiths would make these, but there was no set plan. They just had to throw them together. And some of these blacksmiths had never made a gibbet cage. They'd heard of them. Because obviously back then there's no phones to share pictures of my latest design. So a lot of gibbets, they look completely different. So we have actually got a picture of our gibbet somewhere. I can't remember what picture it is now. I think it could be 8.
This one, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that's our gibbet. And it's been used loads, hasn't it? It
We've
gets
had some
used,
fun with that.
Oh, yeah. It gets used mainly on photo shoots nowadays, but I've put people in there. And once they're in there, even though they can move the hands and legs, they can't run away. So it's like Kaplunk.
And they can't pull away from a cattle prod.
I get my cattle prod in there, get my cane and start poking away, and they can't move. It's great. But we've had some really good photos in there as well. But as you can see, that gibbet cage looks completely different to the first one from the dungeon. So this is why, because there was no blueprint. They had to just sort of make it up as they went along. Now, so these were designed initially as a form of humiliation and torture, not necessarily death. And I always thought they were used on ships, and they were used on ships, but it wasn't that common. It was actually mainly in villages. So where I live in West Derby, it's a really, really old village, and they did have things like gibbeting there, and there's still a stocks in the village now. There's a monument and there's a stocks, and the old jail is still in the village.
I thought that was just because you lived there.
I brought my own stocks to the village.
It's got your little plaque underneath.
It's got all the blood and sweat tears from all the victims that have been on it previously. So, we had the gibbet in our village. So they used to have them there, and it'd be like a really, really big affair. So people from all the surrounding villages would come along to witness this gibbeting. And the people that would go in there normally be like, they would have maybe robbed something, or pillaged or whatever. It wouldn't be anything too serious, but they'd be put up there for a few days, dehydrated. People would throw stuff at them, and that'd be it. They'd be brought back down again. But I think the powers that be thought, actually, this is a really good spectacle.
Yeah.
And this could be used for more than just a little bit of humiliation. I think we're going to use this as a form of torture and death, actually. So they did. So around the 1740s, there was a law declared, and people could be publicly convicted and put up in this thing. They can be dissected. Anything could be, in there.
Nice.
Now, mainly it was guys that were put in the gibbet cage. Not because it was a sexist thing at all, or because there was more guys than females who were convicted. There's a lot of females, but females were used by surgeons for dissection, to learn from, basically. So the guys went up in the gibbet, and people would like literally flood from everywhere. The crowd would be dead excited to see this gibbeting, because sometimes it'd be the only one they ever see, because obviously people are far and wide. You can't travel too far to see gibbeting in other areas. And there's this like macabre, morbid fascination with it all. Now, I know I'm a sadist, but I don't know whether I'd want to see this in reality. You've got a person who's like terrified, who possibly hasn't done anything huge in the grander scheme of things. When you think of like Murder One nowadays, they probably wouldn't have had to have done something that bad to go up in the gibbet, and they would have been terrified. And nowadays, that would be televised, wouldn't it? So they were stripped naked. They were placed inside the cage. Even if the person was slightly overweight, but the cage was too small for them, didn't matter. They were just still thrown in there, squash them in there. And they were hung from a tree or a gibbet and within the city walls. So onlookers would be throwing spoiled food, rocks. They'd be shouting at them, humiliating them. And then eventually the person would like start to decay from a bit alive from the outside in, I suppose. And when that started to happen, birds would land on them, insects would start to infest. So they'd be eaten alive, almost really. So they're dehydrating. They're obviously losing control of the bowels as well. So that would be attracting flies who would lay maggots. So they would literally be decaying. And so this gibbet would be like an open window to this decay for all people to watch. And at first, it was I'd love to say exciting for them to see. There was another word that they used. It was along those sort of lines. It was a big thing. It's like, we've put this person to death, this wrong'un, and look at him now. And it was like, don't you do this, because this is going to happen to you. So it was a big example to be made as well. But after a week or so, the smell became really, really bad. The person would probably be dead by then. And the wind would obviously, spread the smell. The thing would creak. It'd be quite eerie. And people would start shutting the doors, and obviously they wouldn't like it anymore. And after this happened quite a few times across the country, people were like, do you know what? This is not good, actually. We're not enjoying this anymore. It was good at first, and now it just stinks. Yeah. And I don't think it's very nice. And all the person will be screaming. They start going hysterical with dehydration. And so it was actually torture for the people watching it as well. So eventually, this was, it wasn't used anymore. And once they got to like the late Middle Ages, they stopped using it.
Yeah.
And quite rightly so, really. It's really, really cruel that I think it's literally, you're watching somebody die and decay in front of your eyes. It's not very nice. I'd much prefer what we do with our gibbet.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to still keep calling it a gibbet because I can't not now. No. Gibbet cage, gibbet. But I learned a few things. I was like, right, okay, so it's not actually called a gibbet, and it wasn't used too much with mariners. It was more in small towns, because I tell people it was very much a naval thing, which it was, but not predominantly. It was mainly in villages and used as a form of like, an example to be made. So there you go. That was the gibbet, and I loved his gibbet because it looked like the Marshmallow Man. Now, he also had an Iron Maiden, which I'm not going to talk about too much, but Iron Maidens, do you know what one is? Before we show the picture.
We've got one, haven't we?
No.
Then.
Unfortunately, I haven't got an Iron Maiden. There you go. This is quite a crude looking Iron Maiden. So basically it's a coffin with spikes on the inside, and the spikes are long enough to impale through the body and cause quite bad damage. Now, they're all different. Some of them are very, very ornate. Some of them are just a box. It's crude. And some of them just have the spikes around the upper part of the body. Some of them have them in the head and down the legs as well. But on reading about this, now he did have one, and it was like this black wood type Iron Maiden, and it had loads of spikes in it. But when I was reading around this, there's actually a bit of doubt about whether they were real, whether they did actually exist. When you think of an Iron Maiden, you think of medieval times. But there's no evidence whatsoever that these existed in medieval times. It's all hearsay. And the only evidence that we've got that Iron Maidens did exist was as late as the 19th century. And we know that they could possibly have been used as late as the 21st century as well. One was found in Iraq in 2003 during the Iraq War, and they reckon it had been used. Now, even though that's sort of hearsay, there is a bit of evidence out there that did actually exist. So, I mean, I don't think I have to explain how this works. You get placed in there and they shut the doors on you. However, they don't just go, bang, see ya. They shut them slowly. So you'll feel the impalement, and then they shut them slow. So
that is kaplunk, isn't it?
It is like kaplunk. So you're feeling this very slow death, and you know what's coming. It's nasty, isn't it?
Yeah.
And even though obviously we're all different shapes and sizes, the length of those spikes, wherever it's going to impale you, it's going to kill you off at some point. It's going to get something major, isn't it? So it was definitely a form of death. But I thought that was really interesting, that there's no real hard evidence that they existed in the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages. Okay, so we've got another one here called the Brazen Bull. Now, Marius did not have a brazen bull, but he did refer to it, and I looked into it a little bit more. It's picture 9.4, please, Dylan. And I want to show this particularly because I think this... One, it shows the ingenuity of the engineering with this, but it also shows how twisted and cruel human beings have been to each other over time. So this was used in Roman times, around 560 BC. And it was designed by a guy called, he's called Perillus. I'm going to call him Perillus. We call him Percy. Okay. We're going to call him Percy because I think that's wrong. And he lived in Athens. And he was instructed at the time by his leader. Who was his leader, Vic? Hang on. Phil. So Percy and Phil. All right. So Phil said, look, Percy, I need an interesting way to kill people off. You know, you're a good inventor. You've got a good imagination. Come up with something, mate. So Percy went away and he invented this brazen bull. We just put it up again, please. And it was a bronze bull with a door on one side, and the victim would go in the bull and locked in. And then, as you can see, there was either coals or wood or whatever underneath the bull, which would heat it up, and the person would basically burn to death inside. They said that the scorched bones were then often made into bracelets and sold at the market, and they would die of severe burns and just like the heat, exhaustion in the end. But I hate to say this, but the ingenious part of this, I really like this, and I shouldn't. I know I'm wrong. But he had this intricate like tube system on the inside. And when the person screamed on the inside of the bull, it made like a bull sound coming out of the bull's nose. So as the person's going, "Wah!" the bull's going, "Woo!" Something like that. This is how I've got it in my head. Okay, woo. So this poor person is screaming because they're dying, and this bull is bellowing. But I'm sorry, but how ingenious is that?
I quite like it.
I like it as well. It looks good. Yeah. But
I feel like you might die quicker than some of the other ways.
yeah, it's not a nice way to go, that though.
No, but at least it'd be quicker.
However, because, the Romans were just twisted motherfuckers, man. I mean, I've seen the movies. Phil, the big man, right? He said to Percy, "Hey, Percy, I mean, it's a great idea, but it's a bit sick, isn't it, really? And I'm not too sure whether I want you amongst me flock, because that's just a little bit too out there. So as punishment, I'm going to put you in the bull."
Wow.
Fuck. Well, I did say we were going to go a bit longer today.
That was just Percy's reaction.
Oh, was it? Okay. So Percy was put in there and he was sentenced to death in his own bull. But it's said that Phil was also a victim to the bull. He was overthrown by Telemachus in 570. Terry. So Terry overthrown Phil, and Phil was put in Percy's bull. So there you go. And it made noises. So I have got a couple of others, but what I might do actually, I might continue this as my own like little episode and stick it on Patreon. Because I've got reams of stuff, but it's dead interesting. I just wanted to get the bull in there before we finish.
Yeah.
So there you go. So what do you think of our torture museum?
Looks like a fun place to spend the day.
It was really, really good. And Marius made it. Marius made it because he knew everything and he was dead passionate. And once he knew I was passionate, that was it. We were mates, even though he hasn't replied to my email. Fuck it. We were mates for 2 minutes. So if you're ever in Krakow, I strongly suggest, if you're a deviant like us, you need to go to this place and, put 2 hours aside.
Well, Sid's asked for a weekend in Krakow for his birthday.
And you need to get over there then, meet Marius.
Yeah.
Just don't take any pictures.
I was like,
then.
you? Why haven't you text Vic back?
Yeah. Reply to the email, you fucker. Yeah, episode 23, get on it. And if you don't like the content, tough shit, because you gave it a choice. I did. I said, do you want a quote? Do you want me to say anything you don't want me to say? Didn't get back to me. I'm sure, Marios, you're just dead busy, aren't you, mate? So, no offence taken.
Bestie.
So, right, what time's it? Okay, yeah, do you know what? We've got some time. We're all right. We've got some time. So rather than do the middle bit, the dangly bit, I'm just going to go straight on to your bit, because you haven't done one for a couple of episodes, because I keep wishing on. And then I might do the dangly bit at the end as a quick one, or I might just leave it to the next one. So go on.
Maybe that is the dangly bit. Leave everyone dangling.
Yeah.
So mine is a little story that I came across, and it just intrigued me a bit, so I thought I'd share it. So...
Got cold.
It's because you've been talking for an hour.
Shut the fuck up. It actually wasn't. It was 40 minutes. Right. Of what? What are you having flashbacks about?
Even Dylan knows.
Oh. Shut up.
So, the Hotel del Salto.
Ooh.
I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
Del Salto.
It's probably not. It's Colombian.
Okay, so the Hotel Del then.
Del Salto.
Okay.
It's rumoured to be one of the most haunted places on earth.
Love a haunted hotel.
I know. And wait till you see the picture, it's boss. So the place was built in 1923 and it overlooks, I'm going to say, the Takandima Falls.
Takandima? Do you know what? If it's
Could
not
also be
right,
wrong.
that sounds
That was a good
great.
go, wasn't it?
Do you know what though, in a Scouse accent? Takandima.
Tacos. So Taco Falls. And the views are meant to be like so good that people just kept getting drawn back there because it was amazing. But everyone would get too close to the edge and just fall in.
Okay. Do you think they're pushed by a spiritual hand?
That is a theory. So according to the local legend, there's an indigenous tribe called the Muisca tribe.
There's a lot of big
There's
words
a lot of
in
words
this
in here that I
podcast
can't
today.
say. Yeah. The Muisca tribe. And they were fleeing the Spanish colonizers.
Okay.
So they all ran to this waterfall and just threw themselves in to avoid being caught.
Okay.
So the legend has it that they now haunt the grounds.
How high is this waterfall then? High enough to die.
I mean, from the pictures, it's not super high. Do you want to see it?
You see these things in the movies, don't you?
Well, I mean, it
and
is
people
high.
throw themselves off cliffs into a waterfall. And in reality, you're like, you're so dead. And they're not. That's high. I'd say that's a few 100 feet.
That's a lovely hotel though, isn't it?
It's a beautiful hotel with a fucking big waterfall that I would not jump off.
You see this, Dylan?
That's a really, really nice hotel, actually. Can you see that, Dylan?
I can.
It looks
She
very
looks
haunted.
big. Yeah. So yeah, the legend has it that this tribe, if they were in risk of getting caught, they just throw themselves off into the waterfall to avoid being captured. So rather than meeting their demise, the Muisca tribe would transform into eagles mid-fall and soar into the skies.
Okay, obviously that is definitely a myth and legend.
Ops, yeah. So the tragic deaths weren't the only thing keeping visitors up at night. Once this hotel was built, apparently you could see apparitions.
Apparitions. Not just me, it's got me foot in my mouth today.
I know. Fuck, I just need to fart me, Dylan. So there was all these apparitions in the hotel and outside by the waterfalls, and they heard little conversations, like all these voices and stuff.
It's like you and Ryan when I'm trying to speak and you're having your own conversation in the background.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah. So these are meant to be the spirits of the Muisca people.
Oh.
So there's meant to be a dark energy over the falls that drove all these hotel guests. Yeah, so apparently people would just
That'd be me, that.
be going to look at the view
Okay.
and then they'd be gone.
So there's no safety rail.
No, there looks like there's just a little wall. But
See, in the UK, there'd be like a big, massive fence and
Yeah.
screen, electric fence even,
Yeah.
to stop you going anywhere
don't be
near.
in our bed, stay away.
Yeah.
So there was a brutal murder of a young socialite in one of the rooms. Apparently the walls were splattered with her blood, and they say this lady turned into like a really vengeful spirit.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? Been
Well, yeah,
murdered
if you're
in the
pissed
room,
off
blood
just staying
splattered
at this
everywhere.
nice hotel.
You're going to be all right with that.
Yeah. So she's often seen peering through the windows where she died
Oh, just
before
peeling.
she pushes you.
Oh, so they reckon it's her that pushes?
Come with me. Yeah, well, she's just one of them.
So they reckon that she entices them in
Yeah.
and then pushes them over the
Yeah.
waterfall. God, what a cunt.
Along with all these tribe people.
Wow.
So
Imagine being that vengeful in death. You know, like, life is hard enough, isn't it?
I don't know, if you're just living your life and then you get murdered brutally.
I mean, you'd be fuming,
Yeah.
wouldn't you? If you're being murdered, you'd be fucking fuming. But I'd a bit more than fuming, I'd be very dead. But
Just
in
a
my
bit dead.
afterlife, I'd rather not be fuming for my whole afterlife. I've spent a lot of my real life fuming.
You just move on.
I just like, okay, do you know what? I'm murdered.
It is what it is.
I can't change it. I don't want to spend all of my afterlife fuming,
Yeah.
pushing people off a cliff. Then again, I might
Maybe
do.
it was just a game. Come here, yo.
Some game. Jesus. So
eventually everyone moved out of this hotel because
well, because they all kept dying.
people just kept dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, eventually people did stop
So is it derelict now?
coming. So it was derelict. It stood derelict for like a really long time. Even when it was empty, you could hear cries coming from the building, like screaming and stuff. And people just assumed that it was doomed, the building.
I'm trying to
You just need to give up on it.
So is it a tourist attraction now?
So now, yeah, so started to change in 2011 when they started renovating almost, and they turned it into like a natural science and ecological farm foundation.
I bet they put a fucking fence up by the waterfall now.
Yeah, so it's turned into the Takandima Taco Falls Museum of Biodiversity and Culture. Ryan's gone for another poo.
I think he has. How loud is that then? Canal.
Yeah, so they turned it into this like heritage site, and they've turned it into this museum, and like you can go and study things there.
Wow. So sorry. So it's the Hotel del Santo.
Salto,
Del Salto.
yeah,
Okay. And
in Scouse,
so is it Colombia?
Colombian, yeah.
Okay. Do you know, right? Colombia Really fancy going to Colombia, but you'd have to be armed, wouldn't you? And do you know what? If you're in Colombia and it's not like that, I need to know more, because everything you read is all a little bit fractious, isn't it?
I mean, I don't want to say it's just all drug dealing, but it's all I ever see.
It's all you'd ever see, isn't it? It's like, the drug capital.
Yeah.
And it might not, I've heard it's cleaned up a little bit now, but it still sounds a little bit dangerous. And so, like, my family are from South America.
Yeah.
And I really would love to go to Colombia, but don't know, don't want to risk my life yet.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to go.
Even for a haunted hotel. Does sound interesting.
Or a
though.
fucking good party.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so you can go and tour the hotel, but it's only open during business hours, because anything after dark, it's too risky apparently.
Because it's so haunted.
Because all the spirits come out to play.
Whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to say that though, aren't they? But you just charge more. Wouldn't you? You charge more and get a
sign this
signed disclaimer.
disclaimer.
Yeah. So you can give me a shit ton of money
It
for
is
a
a gorgeous
near-death
view.
experience. People pay a lot of money for that.
Yeah. I mean, you can see, like, right on the edge, it's literally just a tiny little
God,
wall.
it is really on the edge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's like
Lovely, though.
hurricane. That's earthquake country as well out
Yeah.
there, isn't it? I'm surprised it's still standing. Must
Lovely,
be on
though.
there while them fault lines.
So, yeah,
Wow.
if you're looking for somewhere to stay.
I'd love to go, but I just don't know about Colombia, man. We've talked about it quite a
Yeah.
bit. There's some cruises that go around South America.
I think
and that.
Sid said about Colombia, but I think I just didn't want a party.
Because they want the drugs. You just overdose and die.
Yeah.
Wow. I do love a good haunted hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right then, I think we need to finish, don't we, Dylan? Because he gave us the fart buzzer. I think it was about 7-8 minutes ago,
About
haven't we?
10 minutes ago, I farted you.
Okay. 10 minutes then. We best go then, hadn't we?
Let's do it.
So the dangly bit, I'm going to leave for another time. I quite like the dangly bit this time as well, but never mind. I've witted too much. So you all don't know, but we're going to be recording after this. We're going to be doing a Patreon episode, aren't we, with our Ryan?
We are.
And you don't know what the Patreon episode's going to be. I haven't told you. I'm really glad you've been for a flatule first, let's put it that way, because there's a bit of movement involved. We don't have any toot-toots on it.
No.
So, yeah, we're going to go and record our Patreon now. So we haven't finished here. So I'm all fired up for this now. I'm like, raring to go. All that death. It's got me going.
She's brought us two of those chairs.
In the meantime, keep following us, keep chatting to us. And do you know what? Share with your friends, because that's what's getting us out there. I was recognised yesterday in the Butchers.
I know.
Oh, yeah, I put it in the group, didn't I? And she actually got shit. I think that was shared by a friend. You know, my friend said, watch this reel, watch this podcast. Yeah. So when you share with your friends, we're getting more followers.
You were recognised at McDonald's the other night, weren't you?
By your wife.
No, it was by me. I embarrassed them making a little video.
Oh, okay.
Vote for Dylan.
Yes, I think we need to get a vote to get Dylan on. And that'll probably mean Calvin will be our producer.
We'll get nothing done.
Oh, you've been in the toilet the whole time.
Forgot to press record.
Right, sorry about that, guys. You did all episodes again. Right, we're going to go. Oh, Calvin's lovely. We don't mean that. I'm just picking on him because he's not here.
He's just normally pissed or
his door's
hungover.
closed as well. He can't even hear us. Right then, we're going to go. We're going to go and record our Patreon. And if you want to see it, you need to go and sign up, don't you?
Bye.
And there we have it. Another day made better by listening to the Curators of Chaos. Thanks for dropping by. And if you enjoyed the show, we'd really appreciate you sharing your love for the Padded Cell podcast with your friends. Don't forget, give us a follow on our socials. Maybe leave us some 5-star reviews. And feel free to send us an email to medic@the-padded-cell-podcast. Or even interact with us on Facebook, Insta, and our other socials. Because we love chatting to you. Be sure to stop by next week because, as Bowie says, I don't know where I'm going next, but I promise it won't be boring. Catch you soon.